we're now, it's a shame, we've got another acronym, ICAO. Come up, Kurt. Actually, there's lots of acronyms. ICAO, IBAC. Kurt is the Director General of IBAC, the International Business Aviation Council. And we're going to talk about what happens in Montreal doesn't stay there. And now's a chance to learn about ICAO. So, for people in the room, why should they know about ICAO and what is it? Because the regulatory system that we all operate under around the world starts at ICAO. ICAO is a UN specialized agency established in 1944. It just celebrated its 80th anniversary in Chicago. There's this thing called the Chicago Convention, signed actually at the Hilton Hotel on South Michigan Avenue. In early December, they had an 80th anniversary celebration there, including a council meeting in the very same ballroom where the treaty was signed. It's amazing to think that this treaty and this agency has established the global air transport system that allows our air transport system truly to thrive. Now, yeah, there are problems with it, certainly, but it's a pretty robust and flexible thing, although if we talk about processes, it does take the patience of a saint to work through those things. In any case, what is adopted at ICAO in standards and recommended practices becomes adopted by national civil aviation authorities around the world as the fundamental basis of how we operate internationally. So whether it's personnel licensing, whether it's air navigation services, whether it's airworthiness, environmental standards, it all starts right there. I always find it amazing that while the Second World War was going on, a load of people flew over to Chicago to discuss. Yeah, all these visionaries, and they did it before the UN was even established. Visionaries or shirkers, depends how you look at it. They should have been fighting. The reason we wanted to talk about it is it has a 3-year mandate. Yes. How does that work? So ICAO, every year there's a United Nations General Assembly in New York. ICAO has the same thing, but that's every 3 years. It's a triennial system. And what they're doing is, there's a lot of work that goes on in 3 years' time. The Assembly meets, reviews that work, adopts it if necessary, and then the Assembly decides, what's our work program going forward? What are we going to do for the next 3 years? That is coming up. The next Assembly comes up in September, October 2025. And this year is an ICAO Assembly year? Correct, this fall. So 193 member states, 40-some international organizations, of which IBAC is one. There are accredited observer organizations. We're one of them. We're all invited to the Assembly. We all participate in ICAO work, but really there are 6 or 7 organizations that are there all the time. IBAC is one of those core organizations. And it's basically you have representatives, ambassadors from countries or representatives from? Depends on the country. They can designate the person as an ambassador to the council or just a representative to the council. Is it a plum job? Is it like getting Paris to be the... do you have to have done something wrong to get ambassador to ICAO? What was that TV show where the guy, like Survivor, the last Survivor? It depends. I would say in the last 30 years, the United States has taken it quite seriously and tends to send very qualified people. Some states send diplomats, some states send folks from ministries of transport. It just depends. Some just send people who won a few weeks in Canada. And it lasts for how long? I'm sorry? How long does it last for? The assembly itself is 2 weeks, but that's separate from the council. And the council sits year-round in Montreal, and the council has 36 seats. So part of the assembly, which is kind of entertaining, if you're an international affairs geek, is that there is an election during the assembly for the next 3 years' council. And these are 36 coveted seats. The council is broken down into 3 parts. Part 1 is states of chief importance, about 10 countries. There's part 2, and it's states that make an amazing contribution to international aviation facilities, something to that effect. And then part 3 is, this is the group of states that we need to fill in for geographic, kind of diversity. And so at the last assembly, for the first time ever, one state was not voted back on the council. Typically, in part one, there is one state running for one vacancy. So you'd have 10 or 11 states for 10 or 11 slots. And typically, as long as you get a majority of the votes, you're in. Last time, Russia did not get a majority of the votes for several different reasons. I can go into those offline if you want, but it had nothing to do with the actual invasion of Ukraine. And then Russia tried to run again in Group 3 because it needed to file its nomination 24 hours in advance. Group 3 took place a day later. And the fear was Qatar was not going to finally get on the council because of Russia, but Qatar lobbied like you know what, and Qatar made it on the council, Russia did not. And so it was the first time in the history of ICAO. And
it's a mixture of very technical discussion meetings and cocktail parties.
The assembly, yes, yeah. So there are big receptions because of the election. So these states are campaigning. They want to woo other states and get the votes. But the substance of the meeting is highly technical. I mean, they're truly reviewing all the work that has been done by the technical panels over the last 3 years, whether it's the airworthiness panel, the Committee on Aviation and Environmental Protection, of which we have a huge role and has a very important impact on our community. And then they're looking at what's going to come next and how they're going to task those panels for the next 3 years. And coming up, the big ones that we see in the next 3 years are going to be cybersecurity, sustainability issues, and advanced air mobility, so innovation. On that last one, it's kind of how do we incorporate these new vehicles, this new technology into the system now. ICAO and the member states are struggling to figure out how we're going to do that, but slowly they're getting their arms around it. On cybersecurity, what I see happening ultimately for our industry is we're likely going to see some new airworthiness requirements for aircraft, certain equipment, and likely to see procedures and training requirements for our commercial operators. But those types of things have yet to be defined, and I think that over the next 3 years we'll have a better idea of what that's going to look like.
And I have been not being 100% serious for change, but it is very serious, isn't it? Because what happens at this will determine what will become law in many states, or not law, but will become a regulation.
A regulation.
In 3 years.
Absolutely. So when they are working, the Council and the Air Navigation Commission, the panels, they're working during the 3-year period. There are moments during that 3-year period when the Council will adopt standards. They don't wait until the end of that 3-year period. So standards are adopted in the intervening time, and then those standards become applicable a year later, 3 years later, it depends, all on how challenging it's going to be for some states to apply it.
And then the states will write that, the individual civil aviation authorities will make those regulations that everyone has to adopt. And in the past, we've had, issues which no one would think of. Like there was one about fire extinguishers, wasn't there?
Fire extinguishers, I mean, then you have countries or governments like the European Union that put in place regulations against certain fire retardants because it's not good for the health of individuals. Well, that fire retardant is the only one that's certified to be in slides, and so then what do you do with that? So, it comes and goes in both directions.
It works quite well because a lot of the things that Kindon was talking about will have started at ICAO.
Right. No. All of that stuff that he was talking about, there is a foundation for it within the annex related to airworthiness. Absolutely.
Okay. So you talked about the organisations that are members, the organisations that are there all the time round.
Right.
And you're one.
We're one.
But are you completely outgunned by the airlines?
Outgunned. That's a loaded word, but I mean, the airlines, IATA with a T, not a D. IATA has a lot of resources, and they're quite big. They have technically 2 headquarters, one in Geneva and one in Montreal. So yeah, I mean, I think we punch, well above our weight, but the airlines are bigger. The manufacturers, they have a lot of resources now. Boeing and Airbus have really come in and gotten quite involved now through ICC AIA. And that's a good thing, especially when we can partner with them on different issues. But yeah, I mean, we have our moments when I think, yeah, it would be good if we had more resources to throw at this issue.
And if people in this room want to influence ICAO, the easiest way is to do it through IBAC or through their individual member organizations who are all members of IBAC. Correct.
So you're setting me up for a potential sales pitch here. Thank you. And I don't mean this, but yes. So we have our members, IBAC's members, are the national and regional business aviation associations around the world. So here in Britain, it would be BBGA, and I know that Lindsay is somewhere here today. So BBGA is one of our members. EBAA, I know Robert is here, NBAA as well. We work with them to understand what the issues are that need to be addressed at ICAO. They share with us, they join us at some of these meetings, and I put them to work because the delegations would rather see someone like Lindsay from Britain than me, the guy from the US, right? And they go out and they lobby. So there's that, and then we also have the industry partner program where companies can work with us directly. We've had terrific success in that because we've actually been able to bring some of these representatives from companies to some of these meetings at ICAO. And again, we put them to work, working with respective delegations, and they really become part of the standards making or rule making or recommendation making process, depending upon the meeting.
And I think the final question that everyone wants to know: ICAO in Montreal, is that land is the territory of the United Nations, or is it Canadian?
The building, the building is provided by Canada, but it is sovereign land. So yes.
So if there was a murder at the General Assembly, who would have jurisdiction?
You've got a great book there. Who would have jurisdiction? It would probably be the UN first, but they'd invite in the Royal Mounties.
I think that's a great soap opera. If anyone would like to come in and support that, Kurt's got the script ready for you.
Please, please, please. Yeah, no. I mean, we're there for business aviation. We are the official observer organization. And we do work well with the other parties. Sometimes we don't agree with IATA on certain things, but for the most part, we're able to partner, and that helps us also build out and secure those things that we want.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. That was great. And afternoon tea, kindly sponsored by Gulfstream, is outside. Thank you.
Thank you.